Islam is on life support. It is battered and bruised on all sorts of different fronts. It still is even remotely surviving because of ignorance. And today, we are going to deal with one very important area where there is widespread ignorance. One of the last straws onto which Islamic apologists are hanging on to in places like Speaker's Corner and everywhere in the world is this idea that the Quran is perfectly preserved, and that in itself is some sort of a miracle. And to make that point against all odds, i.e., against all evidence, they hang on to this idea called the oral transmission of the Quran. Today, we are going to see if this idea of oral transmission of the Quran is in fact an idea rooted in history, or if it's just a figment of imagination. If you are a Muslim and watching today, the challenge is to you. As we go through the live stream today, I would be inviting at some stage anyone who wants to challenge the arguments that I present to come on board on StreamYard and make your particular argument to still hold on to this oral transmission of the Quran. My challenge is going to be, it is a figment of imagination. It just doesn't exist, even according to Islamic sources. This is Islam under scrutiny with Arul Velusamy. Like I said earlier, Islam is battered and bruised. In regards to morality, Islam has been beaten up left, right, and center. Anyone with a reasonable mind no longer thinks that Islam has anything remotely that could be claimed as a moral high ground. In contrast, it's all wonky and obscene. On the historical criticism front, again, plenty of issues have been brought to the surface, whether it's related to the qiblas of the early mosques, or it's related to inscriptions, Islamic inscriptions, early coins, the city of Mecca and archaeology related to it, the text of the Quran, and various other things, including Abraham and Hajj and all sorts of stuff. On the front of history, Islam again is beaten left, right, and center. One area where the lie of Islam is still surviving is in this area where the claim is that the Quran somehow is spectacularly preserved. Now, again, this is against all available evidence in terms of manuscripts. We go through manuscript after manuscript after manuscript. We find all sorts of variants, all sorts of intentional corrections, things contradicting standard Islamic narrative, and so on. Despite this, Muslims hold on to this idea of perfect preservation because they use their magic wand. And this magic wand is, we have the Quran orally preserved. Millions and millions have been preserving the Quran through oral transmission right from the time of Muhammad. That's the claim made. And we are going to look at that specific claim today. I am Arul Velusamy. I am a Christian. I firmly believe in the Bible and in the Lordship and deity of Jesus Christ. And I am going to show you solid evidence from your own Islamic sources for you to come to a conclusion that this idea that propaganda guys use, that the Quran was orally transmitted, is just a load of lies. Please join with me until the end. I'm going to make my argumentation going through the Islamic sources first. And once I finish my argumentation, I am going to look forward to challenges. We are currently live streaming on 3 separate channels: Operation Stephen, Soko, Revelation 22:13. And on all of these channels, people who are watching are most welcome to come and join us on StreamYard if you want to raise a specific challenge. But that's at the end. Please listen to my argumentation prior to that, because when I allow you to challenge, I'm going to focus purely on the very narrow area of oral transmission of the Quranic text. You can't waffle along, and you're going to address the specific points I raise to deconstruct that myth. So please join with me. Let's enjoy this ride. Especially if you are a Muslim, you're most welcome to go through this with us. Let me, by way of beginning, explain precisely what I mean when I use the term oral transmission. I believe when I present that definition, it should be clear to anyone and everyone what exactly we are looking for. And what we are looking for is not any idea, but the specific idea that I am going to bring up. Please bear with me as I bring up some slides to show to you here. What do I mean when I say oral transmission? This is what I mean. What is oral transmission? As you can see at the bottom here, I am not talking about oral recitation. That's not what I care about. Any number of Tom, Dick, and Harry may think you can recite the portion of a Quran or an entire Quran. I couldn't care less. That is not my focus. My focus is on the 2 specific points I have listed here. An oral transmission of the Quran requires 2 specific ingredients. Number 1, well-known, qualified, and verified oral sources. You should know precisely the list of people, the number of people, and the specific people who are qualified and who should have been verified to have an exact knowledge of the Quran in memory. And number 2, they should have been used as sources. Their oral understanding, what is in their memory, should have been referred to in history as valid, qualified, golden sources of information in order to transmit the text of the Quran. Only when both of these have happened in Islamic history, and my focus is going to be on the early part of Islamic history, only when both of these have happened, anyone can claim there has been an oral transmission of the Quran. If any of these points do not hold water, then essentially we are just talking about some Tom, Dick, and Harry, mugging up some stuff and, having a verbal diarrhea of some stuff and assuming he knows what he is talking about. No one took him seriously. No one would want to take him seriously. So these two are the points in focus. And I'm going to go through the two in order. And I'm going to explain to you, show you details from the Islamic sources to explain to you how Islamic sources claim that on both these counts, the answer we get is negative. There is no known qualified and verified oral source of the Quran, especially right at the start. No known qualified. This point is explicitly made. And then secondly, we would see that at the early stages of especially putting down Quran on, metaphorically, the paper, no valid source was referred to as the golden source for the Quran. These 2 points, let's go through in a second in that particular order. So, point number 1, was there an oral source, well known, attested, and very which sources which have committed the Quran to memory? And what I'm going to do here is again show you evidence from your Islamic sources. And I'm going to present to you evidence in 3 stages. Number 1, I am going to say even Muhammad, according to his own self-confession, disqualifies himself. Even Muhammad claims he is not a qualified source. Number 1. Number 2, Muhammad also goes on to say no one else could be a qualified source. So not Muhammad, not anyone else according to Muhammad. And then finally, we are going to find out that who are meant to be Sahabas, the companions of Muhammad, they themselves are disqualified because they themselves did not know the Quran in the way they are supposed to have known for them to be a qualified source of the Quran. 3 specific points. Muhammad was disqualified. Muhammad claimed no one else could be qualified, and the Sahabas are also disqualified. Let me bring up my browser here, and so we can essentially go through Islamic sources to confirm the specific points that I'm making here. So I am going to mainly today refer to the earliest of Islamic hadith sources recognized by Sunni Muslims in the world today, Sahih al-Bukhari, the earliest of the sources. Let's go through the details that I have to show here. Let me just set up the font size properly here before I jump in. Okay. Okay, sorry, 1 second. All right. Okay, the first one, Muhammad himself is disqualified. Sahih al-Bukhari, 5037. What does Sahih al-Bukhari 5037 tell us or tells us? Of course, I need to share my screen here. Let me share my screen. Virtues of the Quran, share. All right. Sahih al-Bukhari 5037. I'm going to read, of course, the English part. If anyone wants to read the Arabic part, you can do that in your own home later on. 5037. The Prophet heard a man reciting the Quran in the mosque and said, May Allah bestow his mercy on him, as he has reminded me of such and such verses of such a surah. Muhammad says he had forgotten a particular surah and particular verses of a particular surah, and some stranger, some third party who is not even well known enough to be able to be named in Islamic sources, some remote guy has confounded Muhammad's memory. He knows some stuff and Muhammad doesn't even know that stuff. What a shame. And so Muhammad is claiming that he doesn't remember. He's not a qualified source. Sahih al-Bukhari 5038 is my next source. Allah's messenger heard a man reciting the Quran at night and said, may Allah bestow his mercy on him, as he has reminded me of such and such verses, of such and such surahs, which I was caused to forget. Here we get a very interesting idea. And the idea that we get is not alone the fact that Muhammad did not remember and some strange fellow remembered, but Muhammad also confesses and he says, I was caused to forget. Any Muslim who is worth his salt knows that when this expression is used, that he was caused to forget, it was, according to Islamic view, it was Islamic Allah himself who made Muhammad forget. In other words, Islamic Allah, who is supposed to be almighty according to you, made Muhammad forget. And so you can imagine, if Islamic Allah was against Muhammad in memorizing the Quran, how could have Muhammad fared? Of course, he wouldn't have remembered. So that's Muhammad's testimony concerning himself. And the final one. Oh, the Prophet heard a reciter reciting, Sahih al-Bukhari 5042. Heard a reciter reciting the Quran in the mosque at night. The Prophet said, may Allah bestow his mercy on him, as he has reminded me of such and such verses of such and such surahs which I missed. Similar idea, whether it's referring to the same incident or not, I couldn't care less, because it's really hard. No one can conclusively talk about that, because this is all we are left with. In other words, put these three references together. Muhammad did not remember. Some strange fellow far away from Muhammad, disqualified enough that we don't even know what his name was, remembered what even Muhammad could not remember. Add to that, Muhammad gives you, not me, because I don't believe in this historical source, but you believe in this, and Muhammad makes you understand that it is Islamic Allah who made him forget, and therefore, of course, he couldn't have remembered. Point number 2, what does Muhammad think about others remembering the Quran by heart? Let's try and find out. Like I said, the second point is Muhammad thinks no one else could be qualified also. Sahih al-Bukhari 5032. The Prophet said, it is a bad thing that some of you say, I have forgotten such and such verse of the Quran. For indeed, he has been caused to forget it. So you must keep on reciting the Quran, because it escapes from the hearts of men faster than camel do. Guess what? I come across various people who confess that they keep forgetting the Quran, various verses of the Quran. And Muhammad gives the insight that it is again Islamic Allah who makes them forget it. So no wonder they can't remember, because when Islamic Allah acts against you, you can't do much. And then Muhammad adds another detail. How does Muhammad expect people to forget the Quran? Well, as fast as the camel run. So you must keep on reciting the Quran, because it escapes from the hearts of men faster than camel do. Very sad state of affairs. 5032. A similar idea is conveyed in 5031 also. Allah's messenger said, the example of the person who knows the Quran by heart is like the owner of tied camels. If he keeps them tied, he will control them. But if he releases them, they will run away. Clearly, Muhammad indicating the fact of how easy it is to forget the Quran. He himself forgot. He claims Allah makes people forget. And he now is giving the insight that it is very easy to forget. So don't stand up against Muhammad. Don't stand up against Islamic Allah and claim that you are really wonderful in memorizing all of the Quran. And the early people were also, because the early people are saying no. Okay, finally, let's go to Sahih al-Bukhari 5039. The Prophet said, why does any one of the people say, I have forgotten such and such verses? He, in fact, is caused by Allah, caused to forget. Muhammad is asking, why do you say you forget? Don't you know that Islamic Allah causes you to forget? Don't stand up against Islamic Allah and claim that you remember. Don't ever claim that the early Muslims claimed that they remembered. According to Muhammad's own confession so far, we have established he himself is not a qualified source. And number two, he is saying others could also not be. They would become disqualified as fast as the camel runs because Islamic Allah is against you. All right. Now, let's go through the details of what the Sahabas have to say concerning this. Now, before, okay, 49. Sahih al-Bukhari. Who were the Sahabas who we are supposed to focus on? Because we find information as to a few Sahabas, a few companions that you could focus on in regards to finding out whether they could have remembered the Quran. So let's try and focus on them first. Who are these people? Let's go through that list first. Sahih al-Bukhari 4999. Okay, the same one. Let's see, 499. Abdullah bin Amr mentioned, Abdullah ibn Masud, and said, I shall ever love that man, for I heard the Prophet saying, take the Quran from four. Abdullah ibn Masud, Salim, Muad, and Ubay bin Kab. Four specific people who are supposed to be, if at all possible, supposed to be the closest of possible sources. Take the Quran from four: Abdullah ibn Masud, Salim, Muad, and Ubay bin Kab. Let's find out. Subsequently, we're going to find out if these people would have remembered the Quran. But before that, let's go through similar quotes again. Sahih al-Bukhari 5003. I asked Anas bin Malik, who collected the Quran at the time of the Prophet? He replied, four, all of whom were from the Ansar: Ubay ibn Kab, Muad ibn Jabal, Zayd bin Thabit, and Abu Zayd. Four people. Of course, the list of four is different between this particular hadith, 5003, verses 4999, which I read a minute ago. So there is a contradiction, but I'm not going to focus on that right now. And that is for a different episode when we examine the veracity of these hadith sources. But right now, let's assume that there are four which are mentioned in 4999 and four which are mentioned in 5003. There is an overlap, but not all four are the same. Now, third reference, Sahih al-Bukhari 5004. When the Prophet died, none had collected the Quran but four persons: Abu ad-Darda, Muad bin Zabal, Zaid bin Tabit, and Abu Zaid. We were the inheritor of Abu Zaid as he had no offspring. Again, the list is a bit different. 4 people mentioned, but a different list. So these are people who you are supposed to narrow down on if at all you care. Now, we don't have information on all of these in the hadith sources. We are going to go through some significant companions of whom we have information in the hadith sources. So let's do that. Who could have, among the Sahabas, who could have remembered the Quran? Is there anyone who could have remembered the Quran? Okay, let's take the example of Umar, a caliph. Let's see if he qualifies. Sahih al-Bukhari, 4992. I heard Hisham bin Hakim reciting Surat Al-Furqan during the lifetime of Allah's Messenger, and I listened to his recitation and noticed that he recited in several different ways, which Allah's Messenger had not taught him. I was about to jump over him during his prayer, but I controlled my temper. And when he had completed his prayer, I put his upper garment around his neck and seized him by it and said, "Who taught you this surah, which I heard you reciting?" He replied, "Allah's Messenger taught it to me." I said, "You have told a lie, for Allah's Messenger has taught it to me in a different way from yours." So I dragged him to Allah's Messenger and said, "I heard this person reciting Surat Al-Furqan in a way which you haven't taught me." On that, Allah's apostle said, "Release him. Recite, O Hisham." Then he recited in the same way as I heard him reciting. Then Allah's Messenger said, "It was revealed in this way," and added, "Recite, O Umar." I recited it as he had taught me. Allah's Messenger then said, "It was revealed in this way." This Quran has been revealed to be recited in 7 different ways. So recite of it, whichever is easier for you. Now, this is where Muslims get the idea of 7 ahrufs. My focus is not there. My focus is on the simple point, historical, claimed, supposed historical event here. There is Umar, and there is this Hisham. Umar hears Hisham recite Surat Al-Furqan, and he gets confused. What is the confusion? He thinks this is not how it is supposed to be. And then both of them go to Muhammad, and Muhammad says, "Okay, you go on, Hisham." And Hisham goes on exactly in the way Umar heard him recite, and he says, "Yes, that's right." And then he says, "You go on, Umar," and he does in his own way. That's right. Now the point is this. Notice carefully, a person who's supposed to be a close Sahaba, a close companion, did not even know what Hisham had heard. That's the key thing to note. He is supposed to be a companion, a close companion, but he is ignorant of the 7 ahrufs until the point Muhammad had to clarify that later. And of course, Muhammad doesn't tell him, give him details on the remaining ahrufs. He just says there are 7 ahrufs. Now, in other words, at the end of the hadith, at the end of this conversation, Umar would just be led to think that there is stuff that I don't know, period. And I am supposed to take things that I don't know seriously also. That is the conclusion. Nothing else on top. Ignorant, disqualified. I'll go through a couple of more hadiths here. 5042. The Prophet heard a reciter reciting the Quran in the mosque at night. The Prophet said, "May Allah bestow His mercy on him." Sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. I read 4992. Okay, I read 4992. Let me read 5041. Okay. A similar incident. I heard Hisham bin Hakim bin Hizam reciting Surat Al-Furqan. Similar incident, again corroborating the same point. Umar did not know. All right. Let's go through one more. 4986. This is the detailed incident of how Abu Bakr's Quran came about. And the point simply here is, if you read through the details here, Abu Bakr, okay, maybe I'll quickly read actually. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq sent for me when the people of Yamama had been killed, and found Umar bin al-Khattab, Umar, the Caliph Umar, sitting with him. Abu Bakr then said to me, Umar has come to me and said, casualties were heavy among the Qurra of the Quran on the day of the Battle of Yamama, and I'm afraid that more heavy casualties may take place among the Quran on other battlefields, whereby a large part of the Quran may be lost. Therefore, I suggest you order that the Quran may be collected. So Quran be collected. I said to Umar, how can you do something which Allah's apostle did not do? Umar said, by Allah, that is a good project. Umar kept on urging me to accept his proposal till Allah opened my chest for it, and I began to realize the good in the idea which Umar had realized. Maybe I'll stop there for this particular point. Note carefully, people are noticing a problem, and the problem is some Qurans, some people who are supposed to have memorized Quran are in battlefield and they are about to die. Now, before any challenger jumps on claiming that these Qurans are the prime examples of people who had memorized the Quran, note carefully. I have read the detail and I'm going to demolish you on that point. The context clearly suggests that these Qurans are less qualified than even the Sahabas I am talking about, for multiple reasons, which I'll get on to if you raise that challenge. But now, focus on Abu Bakr and Umar. Umar is anxious. Why is he anxious? We might end up losing the Quran. The key point to note there is, Umar is anxious, but Umar could not help. Umar could not put together the Quran. How can he not put together the Quran? Well, clearly, he did not know the Quran to put together the Quran. Some other people have to come in to help. So, Umar, Sahaba, disqualified. Let's move on. Abdullah ibn Masud. If you noticed, I gave you a list of 4 people earlier who are supposed to know the Quran. Multiple lists, this Abdullah ibn Masud shows up. Let's therefore try and see if Ibn Masud could help Muslims salvage anything. Sahih al-Bukhari 5062. Then he heard a man reciting a Quranic verse which he had heard the Prophet reciting in a different way. So he took the man to the Prophet. And the Prophet said, both of you are reciting in a correct way, so carry on. The Prophet further added, the nations which were before you destroyed because they differed. Who is reciting this? Abdullah ibn Masud. Again, just like Umar did not know the fact of this fantasy ahruf, which Muslims seem to be an expert on today, Abdullah wasn't aware of. At the end of the hadith, he still wasn't aware of. Ignorance is bliss. Hadith 5061. The Prophet said, recite the Quran as long as you agree about its interpretation. But when you have any difference of opinion, sorry, that's not what I wanted to read. I wanted to read 5001. Apologies. Sahih al-Bukhari 5001. What do we find here? While we were in the city of Hims, Ibn Masud, who is Ibn Masud? Abdullah ibn Masud, recited Surah Yusuf. A man said to him, it was not revealed in this way. Then Ibn Masud said, I recited it in this way before Allah's messenger, and he confirmed my recitation by saying, well done. Ibn Masud detected the smell of wine from the man's mouth. So he said to him, "Aren't you ashamed of telling a lie about Allah's book? And you drink alcoholic liquors too?" Then he lashed him according to the law. Well, beat him up big time for having had alcohol. But that's not the focus. That's a funny side story. The main focus is a Sahaba, one of the four who are supposed to have known the Quran the closest, according to Muhammad himself, is being challenged. By who? Some strange Tom, Dick, and Harry. In this particular case, a man not qualified enough to be even given a name. He is challenging him. Clearly, no one thought Ibn Masud was a qualified source. It wasn't a popular knowledge. He's challenging him. Look at Ibn Masud's response. Ibn Masud, if he was a qualified source, would have just said, "Hey, stay away. I'm not asking you for your comments. Stay away. You seem to be ignorant. Stay away." Rather than giving that authoritative, the authority that comes from the knowledge that he is a recognized man, rather than giving that authoritative rebuke, Ibn Masud gets into a childish argument. "Oh, you just mocked me. You said I couldn't recite. I am really now upset." He says, then Ibn Masud said, "I recited it this way before Allah's messenger, and he confirmed my recitation. You know what? Even my mom did the same. Even my mom helped me." That is the kind of logic he is using. I did the same in front of Muhammad, and he agreed. He said, "Well done." What a shame. Number one, he was not a known qualified, he was not known as a qualified source in his community. And number two, he is using a childish argument rather than an argument that comes from a person who really knew his stuff. And thankfully, he didn't have to stick to the childish argument for so long. He could become the beast that he could be because he could lash this person because he had alcohol. Nice escape. All right. 5002. Let's see if Sahih al-Bukhari 5002 could save Abdullah ibn Masud. "By Allah, other than whom none has the right to be worshipped, there is no surah revealed in Allah's book. But I know at what place it was revealed, and there is no verse revealed in Allah's book. But I know about whom it was revealed. And if I know that there is somebody who knows Allah's book better than I, and he is at a place that camels can reach, I would go to him." Wait a second. Ibn Masud, Abdullah ibn Masud, is supposed to be one of the four people who was supposed to have known the Quran the closest, the best candidates. But what does he say? I know about different surahs as to where they were revealed. I know at what time they were revealed. But he doesn't say, I know the actual surahs. And then he goes on to say, if there was someone else who knows it more than me, I would even go to him. Which someone else he has in mind? Some Tom, Dick, and Harry, strange third party. He is ignorant enough that he is willing to admit, if someone else had known, I would go to him. Now, of course, we knew earlier that he had childish arguments when some unknown third party came to challenge him. We also know that he did not even know that there were 7 ahrus. So to claim that he knew exactly where surahs were revealed is just wrong, self-contradictory in Sahih al-Bukhari. But that is for a different episode. Today, the focus is Abdullah ibn Masud is as disqualified as any Tom, Dick, and Harry who is alive today. Sahih al-Bukhari 5000. Once Abdullah ibn Masud delivered a sermon before us and said, by Allah, I learnt over 70 surahs direct from Allah's messengers. By Allah, the companions of the Prophet came to know that I am one of those who know Allah's book best of all of them. Yet I am not the best of them. Shaqiq added, I sat in his religious gatherings and I did not hear anybody opposing him. A view which everyone agreed with. I am not the best. What do I know? Well, 70 surahs. I learned from Muhammad. But earlier he confessed, I didn't know about the ahrufs. So clearly he did not know, he hadn't memorized all of the Quran. What did he memorize? Only God knows. Let's move on. Abdullah ibn Masud is disqualified. Zayd ibn Thabit, a significant person in the putting together of the um, Quran, Uthmanic recension, and so on. Let's see what we understand about him. Zayd bin Thabit added, I'm reading from the top here. Zayd bin Thabit added, a verse from Surat Ahzab was missed by me when we copied the Quran. And I used to hear Allah's Messenger reciting it. So we searched for it and found it with Kuzaima bin Thabit al-Ansari. That verse was, among the believers are men who have been true in their covenant with Allah. Problem. What is the problem? I knew there was a verse, something like this, but I don't know. I don't remember. If I need to know, my memory does not help me. I need to search, go and find out from someone else. Doesn't sound to me as someone who would memorize the Quran in the way Muslims portray these Sahabas to be. Sayyid ibn Thabit, disqualified. Let's give him one more chance. 4989. Narrated Zayd bin Thabit. Abu Bakr sent for me and said, you used to write the divine revelations for us, Allah's messenger. So you should search it. Search the Quran and collect it. I started searching for the Quran till I found the last two verses of Surah At-Tawbah with Abi Kuzaima al-Ansari. And I could not find these verses with anybody other than him. Verily there has come unto you an apostle from amongst yourselves. It grieves him that you should receive an injury or difficulty. Sayyid bin Thabit is not the golden source. He didn't remember. He had to, when someone tasked him with putting together the Quran, he had to go collect it from various sources. Clearly, doesn't seem to be a qualified source. So, Sayyid bin Thabit, unfortunately, can't help you, Muslims. You need to move on. And let's try Uthman. 4984. The Caliph Uthman ordered Zayd bin Thabit, Sayyid bin Alas, Abdullah bin Az-Zubair, and Abdur Rahman bin Al-Harith bin Hisham to write the Quran in the form of a book, and said to them, in case you disagree with Zayd bin Thabit regarding any dialectic Arabic utterance of the Quran, then write it in the dialect of the Quraysh. For the Quran was revealed in this dialect. So they did it. Someone who is disqualified enough that he doesn't know any of it is putting himself across as a qualified man to say, you guys do this, and if you have any disagreement, use this particular technique. Well, who are you to say that? If you knew your stuff, you could do this yourself. And if anyone else thought that such qualified sources exist, why didn't they think that you are one of them? So clearly disqualified. Uthman. 4987. One more reference. Let's try and see if Uthman's reputation could be salvaged. This is the classical hadith which many people would be aware of, the detailed account of what Uthman did in regards to his Uthmanic recension. Like I said, I'm not concerned with the historical veracity. I do not think this even happened, and I have valid reasons to suggest so, but that's not the focus for the day. The focus for the day is, it gives a detailed account, but if you read through the account, which let's do right now. Hudayfa bin al-Yaman came to Uthman at the time when the people of Sham and the people of Iraq were waging war to conquer Armenia and Azerbaijan. Hudayfa was afraid of their differences in the recitation of the Quran. So he said to Uthman, "O chief of the believers, save this nation before they differ about the book, as Jews and the Christians did before." So Uthman sent a message to Hafsa saying, "Send us the manuscripts of the Quran so that we may compile the Quranic materials in perfect copies and return the manuscripts to you." And then it goes on, giving details as what the previous hadith that I read gave details. Note carefully, problem, war, and people are disagreeing in the context of that war as to what the true Quran was. Uthman comes in, qualified as the chief of believers. So hopefully he should have known the Quran. He is supposed to be the chief of believers, succession wise, successor of Muhammad. Of course, third caliph, but in terms of status, next to Muhammad. But the problem is, he is disqualified enough that he couldn't do the task himself. And by that, I don't mean he couldn't write it down. I mean, he did not even know to have someone else write it down while he recited it. So, a disqualified source. Could there be anyone else who is qualified? Let's go through this final hadith here. Hadith 4986. As you can remember, I read through this a bit earlier. Abu Bakr. This is the account. I think I read through this earlier. I might not have. But the point here is, this is Abu Bakr's Quran. The reference to the event when Abu Bakr put the Quran together. And what we find here is that initially he is convincing Umar to actually get Umar is convincing Abu Bakr that this project needs to happen, putting together the Quran. Now, once a decision was made that was in fact going to happen, then we realize what the problem that I want to focus on was, which is, so I started looking for the Quran and collecting it from palm stalks, thin white stones, and also from the men who knew it by heart, till I found the last verse of Surat At-Tawbah with Abi Kuzaima Al-Ansari, and I did not find it with anybody other than him. Focus on that. We earlier said Umar was disqualified, Abdullah ibn Masud was disqualified, Sayyid ibn Thabit was disqualified. Now Uthman was disqualified. Now finally, let's try and see if there was if there could have been any other qualified source. They are attempting to put the Quran down on paper, metaphorically. And when doing that, what are the sources they are going to? Palm stalks, thin white stones, from the men who knew it by heart, till I found the last verse with a particular person. Apart from that particular person, no one else had that last verse. Now, in other words, we have a number of sources listed, which together was supposed to have given the Quran. And if you were to argue again that the reference to the men who knew it by heart is a reference to people who knew all of the Quran, and they were well known to have known all of the Quran, think again. The context is clear. All of these sources had to come together to have any sense of completion, not just the men who had known it by heart. In other words, I don't know what they knew by heart for a couple of reasons, because they are not mentioned by name. So which Tom, Dick, and Harry we are talking about, we haven't got a clue. But more importantly, we also know that whoever Tom, Dick, and Harry we are talking about here, they did not know all of it. Maybe they knew 2 verses. Maybe they knew 10 verses. Who knows? Who knows? No one knows. Not even Sahih al-Bukhari, not even al-Bukhari. So no source existed in the early Islamic community who would have known the Quran by heart. My dear friends, point number one, I am now concluding. Well-known, qualified, and verified oral sources do not exist. Not Muhammad, according to Muhammad, not anyone else. Not Muhammad, according to Muhammad, not anyone else. And according to the Sahabas confession in various different forms, no one else again. In other words, oral transmission which needs well-known, qualified and verified sources which are known the Quran just did not exist. If so, Muslims are roaming around today claiming, oh, we have millions and millions of people who know all of the Quran. Well, I don't know what you know. I don't care. But what I do know is that the early Muslims, the closest ones to Muhammad, did not know, period. Let's focus on the second point. Just in case you were wondering, just with the first argument, the case is shattered. Oral transmission would have been an impossibility because the sources which are conjured up in the Harry Potter world just do not exist. And so that is done and dusted. But let's also approach this from the second angle. What happened? Was any source considered to be a popular source enough to be used in the transmission of the text? That is what we are going to care about. And in order to deal with that point, I'm going to go to Islamic sources on two specific supposed events in early Islam. The putting together of Abu Bakr's Quran and the putting together of Uthmanic recension. Let's go through them both. What happened when Abu Bakr's Quran was put together? I'm going to share again. Hadith 4986. Let's go through the details of this hadith right now. Narrated Zayd bin Thabit. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq sent for me when the people of Yamama had been killed. I found Umar bin al-Khattab sitting with him. Abu Bakr then said to me, Umar has come to me and said casualties were heavy among the Qur'an of the Quran on the day of the battle of Yamama, and I am afraid that more heavy casualties may take place among the Qur'an on other battlefields, whereby a large part of the Quran may be lost. Therefore, I suggest you order that the Quran be collected. I said to Umar, how can you do something which Allah's apostle did not do? Umar said, by Allah, that is a good project. Umar kept on urging me to accept his proposal till Allah opened my chest for it. And I began to realize the good in the idea which Umar had realized. Then Abu Bakr said, you are a wise young man and we do not have any suspicion about you. And you used to write the divine inspiration for Allah's messenger. So you should search for the Quran and collect it in one book. By Allah, if they had ordered me to shift one of the mountains, it would not have been heavier for me than this ordering me to collect the Quran. Then I said to Abu Bakr, how will you do something which Allah's messenger did not do? Abu Bakr replied, by Allah, it is a good project. Abu Bakr kept on urging me to accept his idea until Allah opened my chest for what he had opened the chests of Abu Bakr and Umar. So I started looking for the Quran and collected it from palm stalks, thin white stones, and also from the men who knew it by heart, till I found the last verse of Surah At-Tawbah with Abi Kuzaima and Al-Ansari, and I did not find it with anybody other than him. The verse is, verily there has come unto you an apostle from amongst yourselves. It grieves him that you should receive any injury or difficulty. Then the complete manuscripts of the Quran remained with Abu Bakr till he died, then with Umar till the end of his life, and then with Hafsa, the daughter of Umar. Spectacular. The first Quran was being put together, supposedly. I said, if there is an indication of oral transmission, what you need is well-known, qualified, verified sources who had memorized the Quran. We said none of these exist. But even if they had existed, if oral transmission of the Quran was a reality, they should have been consulted. That is the idea of transmission, oral transmission. That oral Quran was orally transmitted from one generation to another, and so on. Some 10 people memorizing the Quran, random people in random places, no one cared about. No one cares about. No one verified them. No one couldn't care less. Or I couldn't care less. The point is, was there any time at which people who were seen as qualified sources were used as the golden source of the Quran, looking up to them as if they had memorized the entire Quran and using their memory for Quran to have been written down? And that is where this supposed event is very important. Abu Bakr, the first caliph, is now putting the Quran together. As we go through the details of what happened, supposedly, we find that once a decision was made as to the fact of, decision was made to actually put together the Quran, what was their next point of action? They did not say, hey guys, guess what? We have an oral transmission, oral tradition of the Quran. We know there are hundreds of people who have memorized this Quran spectacularly. All we need to do is make them stand one by one, maybe listen to the first one, write down the entire Quran, cross-verify, listen to the second one, make sure it is right, maybe go through this maybe 100 times or whatnot. This is what they should have done. If this is the golden source of information, in their minds, what was the source of information? Well, all sorts of random sources. It says, firstly, Abu Bakr says, this is a task that I could not deal with. What did Abu Bakr say? The first caliph, by Allah, if they had ordered me to shift one of the mountains, it would not have been heavier for me than this ordering to collect the Quran. Very impossible. Even a mountain I could lift if I was forced to. But this putting together the Quran from all sorts of different sources, I can't. And so he is now giving or transferring the ownership to Zayd bin Thabit. And then what does Zayd bin Thabit do? He doesn't say, I know this because I am the one who wrote down the Quran, various revelations to begin with. I was with the messenger to write things down. That's not what he says. Even remotely. He doesn't come across as a source used at all. He is not part of the list given here. So who is supposed to have written down, portions of the Quran at various stages when Muhammad was still around is a very dejected figure. And what he says is, all right, you can't do it. It's very impossible. Let me try. Palm stalks, thin white stones, men who knew it by heart. Well, I had to go through all of this until I find the last verse. So clearly his view was to get a list of sources which can help him put together all the verses. But for that to happen, he had to go through all of these. God knows which palm stalk he used, and God knows what was written in that. What we can find is the Quran seems to have been, if this is a historical event, Abu Bakr, which I don't believe it to be, but for a moment, let's think this is a historical event. Abu Bakr's Quran is a Quran cobbled up together with all sorts of sources. No one would have known what was going in to this Quran. In other words, no golden source was an oral transmitter wasn't used as a golden source. In other words, the idea of transmission orally just did not happen right from the start. Very key thing, right from the start. If 1,000 Muslims put on some funny clothing today and do their funny stuff and think they know the Quran by heart, I just couldn't care less. Your earliest of people weren't qualified and they weren't seen as transmitters orally. Never. Let's move on. Uthman's Quran, how was that put together? We already read that a little bit earlier. Let's focus on some additional points here. 4987 is maybe the more comprehensive hadith. Let's read through that. Narrated Anas bin Malik, Hudayfa bin al-Yaman came to Uthman at the time when the people of Sham and the people of Iraq were waging war to conquer Armenia and Azerbaijan. Hudayfa was afraid of their differences in the recitation of the Quran. So he said to Uthman, "O chief of the believers, save this nation before they differ about the book as Jews and the Christians did before." Panic. So Uthman sent a message to Hafsa saying, "Send us the manuscripts of the Quran." Not carefully. Who or what does Uthman think to be the golden source of information? People who had memorized the Quran? Clearly not. Of course, we went through details earlier to say none such existed. And so no wonder Uthman did not go for them. There was no such person. What he had to go for was for manuscripts of the Quran from Hafsa. In other words, Quran is supposed to have been transmitted through written means right from the start. No orality was used. I'm not saying people didn't try to memorize, assuming Islamic history to be right, which I don't think is the case, but let's pretend for a second Islamic history is accurate as presented in the hadiths and the seerah literature and so on. Assuming that, it appears as if the Quran wasn't put together through an oral transmission. It was put together based on written documents right from the start. Hafsa sent it to Uthman. Uthman then ordered Zaid bin Thabit, Abdullah bin Azubair, Said bin Alas, and Abdul Rahman bin Harith bin Hisham to rewrite the manuscripts in perfect copies. Uthman said to these three Quraysh men, "In case you disagree with Zaid bin Thabit on any point in the Quran, then write it in the dialect of Quraysh." The Quran was revealed in their tongue. They did so. And when they had written many copies, Uthman returned the original manuscripts to Hafsa. Uthman sent to every Muslim province one copy of what they had copied and ordered that all the other Quranic materials, whether written in fragmentary manuscripts or whole copies, be burnt. Challenge, my dear friends, is this. I said for oral transmission to be not a fantasy, two things should have been true. Number one, there should have been well-known, qualified, and verified people who are known to have memorized the entire Quran. That we said wasn't the case. Not with Muhammad. Muhammad thinks not with anyone else, and like what Muhammad did, thought no one else qualified. Number two, even if there was a qualified source, to claim an oral transmission to be a way to substantiate Quranic preservation, despite the fact that written manuscripts disagree in all sorts of different ways, to claim that that was in fact the case at significant points in time when there were problems with the Quran, we should find out whether an attempt was made to fall back on oral transmitters. We went through the details of how Abu Bakr's Quran was put together. We went through the details of how Uthmanic recension is supposed to have come about. In both cases, oral transmitters weren't even considered as a candidate to be a golden source at all. And thereby, I rest my case. To claim that millions and millions of people had memorized the Quran, and that is how we know, despite all the differences we find in the Quran and all sorts of problems, that Quran is somehow preserved because the oral tradition preserves the perfect copy. Wake up. If you don't wake up soon, your dreams may turn terrible. I am a Christian and I know my facts from the Bible. The Lord Jesus Christ is going to return. And when he returns, anyone who doesn't acknowledge, anyone who hadn't acknowledged him to be Lord and Savior is going to be in serious trouble. Jesus said, I am the light. I am the way, the truth, and the light. I am the light of the world. I am the life and the resurrection. If you want anything good in this world and beyond, Quran doesn't help you. Your own sources confirm. Get to Jesus Christ. Now we are going to open up the floor for challenges. I'm really, really hoping that there would be bold Muslims, very knowledgeable, of the likes of Mansur, Hashim, whoever else, Hamza from Hamza's pen. Is it pen or den? I watched that a few times. It doesn't look to me like a den. It more looks as a pen to me. So Hamza from Hamza's pen, E.F. Dawa, Paul Williams, guys from E.F. Dawa, Nas, Abbas, the I forget his name. Was it Ibn Ketchup, the Sheikh Ibn Ketchup from the US, who came around to the UK the other day, who has, by the way, a recording, a video on how great and glorious the hadith sources are. We're getting to that next. Any of you guys, if you're bold enough, come challenge. Because I was trying to respond to a few comments on former YouTube videos that we have in Operation Stephen's channel. And poor Muslims, it's really, really sad. Poor Muslims think people like you can challenge and you have the answers. But what we are finding at the Park Speaker's Corner, running away. Come, challenge. The floor is open. StreamYard, let me post the link. I think it should be in Operation Stephen channel's description box. JC and Fred, please, if you can post the link that we have for StreamYard onto your respective channels, and even request people to come along on board and challenge. That would be great. Muslims, be bold. Try and see if your Islamic Allah stands up to scrutiny. Try and see if the Quran is a preserved text. What I find is that the Quran is a corrupted source, and I'm going to deal with that in stages. We're only dealing with the transmission, oral transmission today. All right. Challenge. Time to challenge. All right. Let me just post the links for JC and Fred. Just give me 1 second. All right. How do I do this? JC, can you please pick up from the comment, from what I'm posting in the comment section in StreamYard right now? Can you please pick up from here and post it on Soko? Yeah, is that fine? Cool. Hopefully that happens soon. On Operation Stephen's channel, you should find the detail of the StreamYard on the description of this particular YouTube live stream page. You should also find that in the chat room right now. Absolutely. Brother Aaron is volunteering to post that on Soko JC. So if you can't, please don't worry. Aaron is going to do that for you. Please, Muslims, come on board. Challenge. The floor is yours. But of course, within reason. Stick to the topic. Oral transmission of the Quran. I've gone through hadith sources. Stick to the topic. Challenge me and tell me what I have got wrong. I've given 2 points. Challenge me in regards to those 2 specific points and try and explain to me how Islamic oral transmission of the Quran has any credibility. Try. As we wait for people to come and challenge, hopefully there is a brave Muslim somewhere, or at least a sincere Muslim somewhere, who would be willing to come on board to try and check this out. Let's see. And as we wait to do that, what I'm going to do is I am going to show you a few comments. What I was doing earlier, by way of trying to help out a few Muslims who have been posting on Operation Stephen's channel on some of the past videos related to the text of the Quran, where they make bold claims about all sorts of different things. I wanted to find out if any of them would be willing to come on board to challenge. And unfortunately, they were all full of waffling, plenty of noise, but no substance. None of them took the challenge up, as far as I could see. Or maybe you are hiding somewhere in one of the live streams right now. If you are one of them, I can give you a few names if you want. I think there was one guy called Alhamdulillah. Well, if you're Alhamdulillah, if you really think Alhamdulillah, please come on board. And even if it is not that particular Alhamdulillah, someone else come on board. There were a number of people who posted various comments on a few different videos on Operation Stephen. Let's try and see if there is any bold person who comes on board. While I wait, perhaps a good thing I could do is maybe read through some of these comment exchanges for the benefit of any other scared Muslim who is hiding behind the internet and watching this right now. Let's go through that. Now, also, if you have any contact with the lions of Islam, the people who you claim as people who really know Islam, they could defend the Islam like lions, bring them on board, because they have been cowards, not lions, cowards running away from people of the likes of me and very Paperboy and Chris and so on, running away all the time. Though they don't look to me like lions. So please bring anyone who you think can defend Islam on board if you have contact with any one of them. In the meantime, let me try and read through a few comment conversations just for a bit of fun, but also a little bit of insight as to the fact of Muslims running away from defending Islam. Let's see. StreamYard, present, share screen, Chrome window, and YouTube. All right, share. Let's share. Let's see. All right, let's go through some of these comment conversations. I pretty much copy pasted sort of the same message to everyone. I just said, if you have the guts to face my challenge, come online. StreamYard would help you get live with me on my live stream, and you can challenge me if you are able to. That is roughly the message posted. Zakaria Khan, wherever you were from, replied, Operation Stephen Bro is talking about a different thing. I want to talk about your three gods. All right. So, ignorance is bliss. I don't want to talk about this because I don't know anything about this. Yet I believe that Quran is perfectly preserved and so on. I'm sure if he gets the mic at Speaker's Corner for some time, he's going to ramble on. But faced with the perfect opportunity to challenge, what does he say? I just want to talk about your three gods. Well, can't help much. Let's go on to the next comment there. International Club of Discussion for Chiefs replied, Operation Stephen, you are scared to accept facts and evidence given by Muslim scholars. So you want to challenge YouTubers now. Really? Have you seen some of the videos that we have on Soko and maybe even on Operation Stephen channel, where I tried to have a civil conversation with all sorts of different people who you take as scholars? Paul William ran away. In the middle of a conversation, ran away. He thought he was making a conclusive case on Birmingham manuscript. I think he is fundamentally flawed, and before I could even make the point, ran away. What did Sheikh Muhammad, I think his name is, what did he do? Well, again, run away. What is your popular actor? What is his name? I forget his name. Not Muhammad Hijab. What's this? The guy who goes with Muhammad Hijab. I've forgotten his name. Now, I know him since the time he came to Speaker's Corner for the very first time, and I know that he doesn't have a clue about the Quran and Islam, yet he rambles on. He is a YouTuber and YouTube actor, not someone who is knowledgeable in anything decent, and he ran away, couldn't face facts, and his answer for my questions is his umbrella. All right, let's see what else said. Abu Bakr Hajj replied, Operation Stephen, no need to follow the devil. Thank you for the advice. The question is, do you have evidence? I'm not looking for your advice because who are you? I don't even know who you are. I don't know how qualified you are in terms of knowing about anything decent. So the point isn't that I need your advice. The point is, can you evidence? I can see here, no evidence provided. Nun replied, Operation Stephen, you need to stream with at least 100 layman Muslim. Try to change even one word from Surah Al-Fatiha, the first surah, or even An-Nas, the last surah. And all 100 of us would, if I open the entire chat message there, I think he's going to suggest that bring 100 laymen, and guess what? They're all going to agree. And that is proof for an oral transmission of the Quran. Like I said earlier, these guys do not have a clue as to what they are talking about. I am not challenging whether 100 of you have not eaten and have not drunk for 100 years and have sat together in a sad corner in a dark room memorizing some silly book. That is not my point. Because for all that I know, what you're reading might not have been what was in the original Quran, which is going to be one of my challenges in one of my future streams, by the way. I don't care whether there are 100 people who can recite the Quran in a particular manner. I couldn't care less. The point I want to focus on was there a history of an oral transmission of the Quran? In other words, were there not even 100, even one person in early Islam who was considered to be a source, a golden source, who was used to record the Quran in a written material? Is there even one such person? And the answer is no. And so I don't care about 100 of your laymen. What I care about is that oral transmission just did not exist. Let's move on. Rizwan Ramley replied, Operation Stephen, you think I care? Well, clearly. Well, thank you for the confession. You think I care? Your Bible is much more, much more way back than the Quranic history. I don't know what he's trying to say here. Therefore, makes it more exposed to corruptions. You should first try to sort out your mess. I think I read this comment completely earlier on before I came live stream. I think he said something like, you have a mess, deal with your mess, and then come and deal with us. Well, I'm happy that he agrees that he has a mess to deal with and that he wants my help to deal with that mess. To that extent, I'm happy. And I'm also happy that he makes another crucial point here. He says the Bible is much older and therefore more prone to problems. I agree with that. It's not just because of the fact that the Bible is older. It is also because of the fact that the Bible belongs to a different era altogether in terms of tools used to record. The Bible belongs to even a more primitive era, yet the Bible comes across shining like a bright light to this world even today. Please continue watching my live streams and you're going to find out the Quran is a perfect example of cobbled together junk which became even worse over a period of time. Nothing to do with preservation. It is the exact opposite. And I'm going to give you details after details. In contrast, I'm going to also lay out my case for the fact of how Bible, even though it belongs to a previous era, actually fares wonderfully. All right. Apologies. While we were sharing here, there is in fact someone who has joined on stream who has just now gone away. Apologies, Bilal. I'm really sorry. Let's try and see what Bilal has to say. I do apologize. The first time I'm using StreamYard, so I didn't quite catch the alerts I received when Bilal joined. Bilal, it's great that you attempted joining. If you are listening, please would you come on board again and deal with my challenges. Please join on StreamYard now and I will let you in. Apologies. Right, an empty claim. Bilal, I do apologize. We didn't let you in on time. It's my mistake entirely. I do sincerely apologize, but I'm hoping that you could come on StreamYard again, and this time I'll pay attention to the chat room, to the room here, to let you in as soon as you come. There is no one else in the queue, and therefore you will be let in first. And as I wait for Bilal again, let me please go through the other comments there. Okay, there apparently is some private message. Oh yes, I saw that, JC. Yeah. Cool. Bilal, we are waiting for you. All right. While we wait for you, let's go through some more comments here. Rizwan Ramley replied, Operation Stephen. Oh no, that's what we just read. Okay. This is the Alhamdulillah. What does Alhamdulillah say? God can't be human, bro. our Jesus Christ is our massager. Massager? I'm assuming you meant messenger. Don't make him your God. That's very much on point, I'm assuming, or not. I am talking about the text of the Quran, and I challenged him to come on board StreamYard to challenge me. Okay, I hear the alert again. Bilal is back. All right, Bilal, 1 second, please, while I add you to the stream and I stop sharing my screen here.
There we go, brother. How you
Hello,
doing? You
Bilal.
okay?
Good to see you here. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How you doing, Arul? You okay?
By my God, Jesus Christ, grace, I am really wonderful. And it's great to see you here. I do apologize for the little mishap earlier where I completely missed you. But good to see you here.
It's all
Where
right.
are you from, Bilal? Can you briefly introduce yourself? Where are you from?
I'm from Pakistan. What about you?
Okay.
Where you from?
Originally from India. Um, yeah. So we are neighbors, and I'm glad
So
to
you
have you.
can speak Hindi with me. It's easy for you.
My Hindi is terrible. I can understand a little bit of Hindi, but
Yeah,
Hindi isn't my mother tongue. I do apologize. So
don't
let's
worry.
do it in English. English is the language that works with me. I'm assuming you
You
won't be
can't
able to
even
speak.
speak your mother tongue. How you gonna speak the tongue of books, brother?
Come again, please, Bilal. I didn't quite catch that.
You said you can't even speak your mother tongue, brother.
No, what I meant was I think English is the common language we have. Um, so let's stick with English.
Our common language is Levi all. What's your argument? Just tell me, what's your arguments with the Quran?
Well,
Inshallah,
I laid out
I'll
my
tell you that.
argument quite clearly. I don't know if you were if you joined us late. I'm going to lay down. I can give you a quick summary of
Yeah,
what I went through earlier.
yeah.
Essentially,
Just tell me quickly what our in short and sweet words. That's it.
yeah.
And with the
In short,
reference, brother, not without the reference,
well, I went through a fair level of detail. When
brother.
did you
Just
join? When did
just
you join the live
mention me.
stream?
Just mention me only like a small little like you can say that uh like that way Allah said Jesus is God, like that kind of sentence from Quran. No, I mean I didn't mean that you said you tell me where they, but I mean you tell me a simple small sentence, so it doesn't take time. Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely, Bilal.
yeah,
So the quick summary is I essentially established my case in two levels.
yeah,
First, I said in early Islamic, supposed Islamic history, there
yeah,
was no one person who had memorized the entire Quran. And I
yeah.
went through various hadith sources, Sahih al-Bukhari, various hadiths to
You know,
establish.
brother, who is the
Let
writer
me
of the
finish.
Bukhari?
Let me just finish this, Bilal. So
Yeah,
I want this to be a productive conversation. So I
yes,
mentioned
brother.
went through all sorts of different hadiths. I can you can yeah, I went through all sorts of different hadiths where I explained
Yeah,
that there is no one person in early Islam who would have known Quran by heart, and that therefore, if no such person existed, clearly there can't be an oral transmitter.
brother,
That is
I
point number
can
one.
answer you quickly, brother. Don't worry, I'm here to help you with it.
Well, I'm not asking you for your help. I'm asking you to deal with my challenge.
Brother,
Explain to
I'm
me.
here to deal with it. Don't worry. I'm here with
Sure.
you. Just
Give me
keep speaking whatever you have.
give me an example of who in early Islam was a guy who had memorized all of the Quran according to Islamic sources. Give me the names and
Brother,
explain how.
first up thing, you're not gonna believe me because you don't believe in first thing you don't believe in Quran, and yeah, second thing you don't believe in the history, and you have not read it properly. And second thing is, what is your question? Is the Quran 1400 a year ago or not? Or is it not
I
preserved properly from
Bilal,
1400?
I can't
So what
I
you
can't
say is it is different Quran, the one which is in 1400 year ago. What you say? Our Quran is is the words of Prophet, not the words of God. But what is your argument, brother? Tell me quickly. I can
good.
answer you for all that. I can.
I have. I have mentioned it in a fair level of detail, and I mentioned it quickly also. So I'm going to repeat here right now.
So what
My
is your
discussion.
problem? That
One
Quran is
second.
not preserved properly,
One.
or
No.
is
Let
it
me.
now
Let me. Let me.
1400 years ago?
Bilal, 1 second. You asked me a question. I'm going to answer you.
Yeah,
I don't want you to ask me to repeat the same thing. The point
don't
is
worry.
this: I'm not talking about the preservation of the text at
Yeah,
all. I'll talk about the preservation of the text, the state of the Quran, the pathetic state of the Quran in a later stream.
yeah,
Right now, my focus is in asking one simple question.
yeah.
Today, people claim there are millions and millions of people who have memorized the
Don't
Quran
worry,
and so on.
brother. I'm here with the references,
One
with
second,
not with
Bilal,
the
let me
references.
finish my question. Today, there are plenty of people who claim millions and millions of people have memorized the Quran. My question is, in early Islam, during the time of the Sahabas, Muhammad included, was there even one person who had memorized the entire Quran for him to be used as a golden source to transmit the Quran? That is my question.
Yes, brother.
Do you know of anyone? Please,
Yeah,
if you think you have an answer,
brother.
please go ahead.
There was hundred of Sahabas, Abu Huraira, Hazrat Usman, Ali, Affan, and Abu Bakr Siddiq. I will give you with the reference. There's a hadith in Sahih Buhari, and it is about the preservation of the Quran in the era of our third caliph, Usman ibn Affan. He told the other partners with him. He told them to bring all the all the other Qurans, and he made one single copy, which everyone said that's 100% right, and he made like 7 8 copies and sent him to different countries, and then he brought the old testaments, old ones, and then he burnt them, so there is no defect left. And second thing I can tell you for the proof is if you search on your YouTube channel, not on YouTube channel, on YouTube, the oldest Quran in the world, and the video will come out. It's the Quran which is preserved in Birmingham University, and that video is uploaded by BBC. And they said this Quran is 1400 years ago, and if you read it, it will start with Surah Taha, and it will same match with the same Quran that we have. That today we have the same Musaf. It says Taha ma anza. I can read it properly. If you open it right now, I can read it for you. And I give you the
Bilal,
Whereas
Bilal,
Hazrat Usman, he preserved it, and he brought all those Sahaba who remembered it, and he confirmed it is the right one. There is no mistake in it, and he spread it to the other words. So there's nothing left, brother. Without that hadith, with that hadith, I can confirm it, brother.
Bilal, with
Yes,
all due
brother.
respect to you, I do not think you have dealt with my challenge, and I
I'm
explain
done
why.
with you.
I'll explain why you haven't dealt with
Yeah,
my challenge. By the way, but before I get to that, you are bringing in Birmingham manuscript. I'm
yeah.
really sorry. I'm going to bring out some very sad news about Birmingham manuscript, which, in my view, no one has brought out so far. I'm going to bring that up in public sphere rather soon, and you will be
Brother, just
surprised to
open
find.
it. I have read it. I have read it myself, so I'm not worried. You can bring it up.
But
If you
Bilal,
don't know how to read
apologies.
Arabic, obviously
Hey,
you're
Bilal,
gonna
Bilal,
change it. Yeah,
apologies. Please don't interrupt when I'm speaking. I'll give you your time to speak. When
yeah.
I'm
Go on,
speaking,
brother.
please don't interrupt. Um, like I said, Birmingham manuscript has all sorts of different issues, all sorts. I'll get to
Brother,
that
that's
later.
you say. That's you say. That's you say. That's they
You,
didn't say
Bilal,
that.
I'm
I
hoping,
doesn't say.
Bilal, I'm hoping you would stay with us, regularly. So when we get to that particular live stream where we deal with the early Quranic manuscripts, hopefully you will bring the same point up again, and we'll deal with that. Now the focus is on the oral transmission, not
Brother,
on
I told
preservation.
you the Sahaba's
One
name.
second,
I told you the
Bilal, Bilal, one
Sahaba
second.
name.
Let me, please
They
don't
used to
interrupt.
remember.
Bilal,
Yeah.
please don't interrupt. Please don't interrupt. Let me speak. When you speak, I'll let you speak. But when I'm speaking, please don't interrupt. The point is, the question I'm asking is there one person who
Yeah.
According to Islamic sources, we understand to be someone who had memorized all of the Quran
Yeah.
and was used as a golden source for the writing down of the Quran. The
Yeah.
challenge I laid out in detail, it was that none exists. You, in your early part of your response earlier, you did mention a few different names, and I like
Yes,
to focus only on that. Please give me a couple of different sample names.
brother.
Which ones do you think in early Islam had memorized all of the Quran?
Brother, first off thing, I don't even need to give the Sahabas example. I can give you from the Prophet life. Whenever came to the Prophet, he used to ask a Sahaba to write down, and he used to ask him to read it. Then he can confirm it's right. And after that, every Ramadan, Jibrail came to our Prophet, and they memorize it twice, and then they write it down. And then after that, there is one Sahabi. He said that I remember almost about more than half of the Quran standing behind Prophet and reading the Tarawis. But Sahabas was their mental level was that they used to stand behind the Prophet and they used to listen in Tarawis and they used
I
to
think,
remember
I
it.
think, I think,
And
I think the disconnect here, Bilal, is that you did
brother, I
not
give
pay
you I
attention.
give you example. That's say Hadith, the one I'm telling you. That Sahabi used to stand behind Prophet and he used to listen to the Quran. The one Prophet used to recite in the Tarawih in the prayer, and he used to remember it.
Okay, let's deal with that one step at a time. So your first point is Muhammad had
Peace be
remembered.
upon him. Alayhi salam. Yeah,
Muhammad
Muhammad,
had
he
memorized. One second.
Jibrail, Jibrail and Muhammad, they used used to came in the Ramadan and they used to revise it. And in the last Ramadan, and Prophet died after that Ramadan. Jibrail and Prophet, I think they revised it 2 or 4 times, and that's in Sahih Hadith. I can get you the references, brother. If
Bilal,
you,
Bilal, don't worry. If you want to show some reference, please let me know. But I'm going to show you a reference here. And the
yeah, go
reference
on,
I'd like
brother.
to the reference I'm going to show you right here are two or three different
Yeah,
things.
it's sunnah.com. Yeah. Let me
Yeah,
read it. In
Sahih
Buhari,
al-Bukhari.
the Prophet heard a man reciting the Quran in the mosque and said, May Allah bestow His mercy on him, as He has reminded me of such and such verses of such surah.
Yeah.
Come on.
Do you see? Muhammad had
No, 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 no,
forgotten.
brother. Brother, you're taking its wrong meaning. I remember that. I remember that. That doesn't mean that he forget about it.
Well, what does this mean? Explain.
Prof,
Please clarify. One
I
second. Bilal,
I will
please.
explain you the meaning, brother.
Yes, please. Explain to me precisely what this substatement means.
Yeah. Laqad azkurni kaza wa kaza. That doesn't mean, brother, that he forget that. That's why he was
What
he.
does it mean?
That's mean like sometimes you're doing some task and uh, something just goes away from your mind and
Which
someone
is what we
told you.
say is forget. When
No,
it
no,
goes
it's not
away from
about
your mind,
forget.
you forget.
No, no, it's not about forget, brother.
So what is this
Some,
going away from the mind business? What is
it's
that?
just a it's just a reminder.
What do you mean reminder? If something goes away from your mind, do you remember it or have you
Bro,
forgotten it?
brother, reminder doesn't mean that you've forgotten what you
Now
say.
wait a minute.
May Allah
Bilal,
bestow His
Bilal,
mercy.
please. Bilal, you really come across as a well-meaning person. I am
Brother,
really happy to have you on board.
sometimes, yeah,
But please focus on my point here.
yeah, I'm
The
focusing on
statement
there,
clearly
brother.
says, the statement clearly says, Muhammad just remembered. He was just reminded of something,
Yeah, reminded.
he wasn't, which means he wasn't aware of that before. He had to
No,
have
no,
a
brother, that
reminder. Now,
he was aware of it, but he forgotten, and then
yes,
that
exactly.
Sahaba
He had
reminded him.
forgotten.
Okay, that's
He had
not a
forgotten.
problem. I will give you more examples of it.
No, no, no. Don't give
Prophet,
more
prophet,
examples. Do we
yeah,
agree? Do we agree that
yeah,
Muhammad had forgotten Quranic verses. Do we agree?
No,
Why not?
that doesn't mean
I
that,
just
brother.
showed you that here.
I'm saying that prophet sometimes something doesn't stay in your mind, and
Which is what is
did you
forgetting.
remember them? And
Which
someone
is
said, "Oh,
Bilal. I don't know if are you trying to make a joke. I'm really not sure. But the
huh,
point
brother,
is, the point, Bilal, is simply you use the term it had escaped from his mind. I am using the term forget. Both of them, I believe, means the same. Muhammad had forgotten. And let me add more details to this because
Ramullah laqad
Okay,
azkarani
Muhammad
that."
clarifies who made him forget it. He says, if you can read this, please, Sahih Bukhari 5038.
May Allah bestow His mercy on him, as He has reminded me of such and such verses of such and such surahs which I was caused to forget.
Yeah, so here, Muhammad is not just saying that he forgot, he is also saying the Islamic Allah made him forget. Now,
Who
I'm
made him
assuming you,
forget?
what is that?
Which I caused to forget.
I was caused, the passive, not the active, passive. I
Suratin
was
kada
caused.
wa kada.
Someone else
Yeah,
acted on me to make me forget. And the
yeah,
someone else,
brother.
he has in his
What's the
mind.
issue in that?
The issue is Muhammad forgets, and
Obvious-
it's not just any random forgetting. It's not just, oh, I was a bit tired and I forgot. No,
brother, brother.
Allah made him
That's why
forget.
you
Now, let me ask you a simple
putting
question,
your
Bilal.
words in the
Bilal,
hadith.
let me ask you a simple question.
Yeah.
Do you think if Allah, Islamic Allah, wants someone to forget something, do you think he can remember that?
Allah, there's not mentioned that. Obviously, Allah, brother, sometimes it's not about totally forgotten. It's about
No, no,
like
no, no. You need
it
to
was
answer my question,
asking about
please.
the remembrance
You
before.
really need to stay focused here, please. The
Well,
question is simple. If Islamic Allah wants someone to forget something, does the man have any chance in remembering it according to
brother,
Islamic theology?
if Allah can make someone forgotten, then Allah can make him remember it again as well, brother. That's
No,
the
wait a
point.
second.
Allah had made him, brother.
This is
Allah made that
ridiculous.
Sahabi as made that Sahabi to recite that verse, and the Prophet remembered it again. And that's what, if Allah made him forget, and then Allah made him remembered it again, brother, that's
Now,
not a big deal.
wait a second. So, do we agree, for starters, do we agree Allah made Muhammad forget?
Allah
Do
can
we
make
agree on that?
anyone forget. Allah
No.
can make anyone forget, brother.
I am not interested in anyone here, Bilal. I am talking about the example of Muhammad himself, because I'm assuming you would take Muhammad to be the prime example. If at all anyone could memorize the Quran, Muhammad is the best example to do that. I'm assuming that would be your
Yeah.
mindset. So my focus is on Muhammad. The question is, do we agree that the hadith here clearly says Muhammad, Allah made Muhammad forget? Do we agree that that was the case?
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Now let's move on and let us
Yes,
see
brother.
who is this Tom, Dick, and Harry third man. Heard a man. Who was that guy? I don't even know who this guy is. Al Bukhari thinks he is so insignificant
Habib
a
Raja
man.
Hadathna Abu Saman Hisham bin Urwa
Well, one
Aisha
second.
Qalat
Let me
Sami'a
finish and ask
Rasulullah.
you this question, please. According to Al Bukhari, the point is there is another man who is brought into the picture here. We don't even know who that guy is. And that man now says something. We don't even know what he said. If Muhammad had forgotten what the verse was supposed to be, he wouldn't even have known what this guy was saying. Some random stuff. And Muhammad thinks, oh, yes, exactly. Allah made me forget, but this thing, that's it. Now,
Brother, Allah
do
made
you
him
think,
forget, but Allah made him remembered as
Do
well.
you think the Quran came from Jibril to Muhammad, or Jibril
Yeah.
to this particular man we don't even know who he was, and then to Muhammad?
Jibrail to Muhammad. And
So
Muhammad
clearly,
delivered it to him.
The particular verse that Muhammad has in his mind did not
Yeah,
come. He had forgotten that. It did not
brother.
come from Jibreel
First
to
thing,
Muhammad.
first thing, you mean to say that if Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was forgotten, that's mean he knew that before, and he told that man as well, and then he reminded him.
Bilal,
How can he remind the prophet if he doesn't know? If
no,
he
one second.
knows, that's mean the prophet told him before, and prophet
No,
forgotten, and then
one
he
second, Bilal.
reminded him again. That's brother. That's
Bilal,
meaning. Look,
Bilal, 1 second. Now, let's be honest. Yeah.
yeah,
In terms of hadith sources, seerah sources, and the Quran itself,
yeah,
no one really knows how they were put together. No one really
brother,
knows. No, no, no,
brother.
no, no.
If
Please
if
listen to
you
me.
if you say
Please listen to me, Bilal. You need to please listen to me on this.
yes,
No one really knows how these things were put together. The point is, so to make a case that Muhammad remembered all sorts of glorious stuff, I don't have a clue. I don't know what Muhammad knew. I don't have a clue as to what he did not know. I don't know. For all that I know, he might have known only 5 things, 5 verses. I don't have a clue. There is no
brother,
verse in the hadith to explain to us all the verses he knew of. And
brother. The
so the point is, I'm not,
first
no, one
thing
second.
is stay with the
I'm not,
point.
one
Stay with
second,
the point where
Bilal,
you
please,
was
please, 1 second.
that
Let me finish
Muhammad
and then
was
I'll give you the time.
forgotten. If you're not
Bilal, I'll
gonna say
finish this and then I'll give you the time. The
yeah,
point is, using the hadith sources, no one can make the case for how much Muhammad knew. The positive case, no one can make. What can one make, rather, which is what I'm trying to do right now, is the negative case, which is, I don't know what he knew, but what I do know is that at least some things he did not know, he had forgotten. And therefore, I am just saying he cannot be an oral transmitter of the Quran. No one
brother.
looked up.
First thing, tell me what is the meaning of reminded, and what is the meaning of forgotten. First thing, just tell me what is the meaning of forgotten, what is the meaning of reminder. Forgotten means that he knew that before and he forgot it. You saying that he didn't know that and that Sahabi told him. He
No,
knew
no, that's not what I'm
before
saying.
and he forgotten and that
That's not what
Sahabi
I'm saying.
reminded him. That's why,
I'm
brother.
agreeing with you.
That's why in the case. That's it.
I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, brother. Then
I
what's
am
the
not
issue?
saying. Sorry. Please, you finish your point. I'll listen to you and then I'll respond. Sorry.
Even though, brother, that's a small thing, brother. Even though once a prophet was praying, prophet was doing Jamaat, and he made a mistake in namaz. Like he read some extra rakat or less rakat, and then when he finished it, the Sahaba said, "Oh, you prayed less or more amount of it." He said, "Really? I've done it properly." Then all of them they said no. He then Prophet said, "I'm a human being like you. I can be forgotten, but if I do a mistake, then you should tell me." Then after that, Prophet did the sajda. So if we forget, we do two sajdas together to finish it. And
Bilal,
he was a human being, but not like us. But not like us, because
no, wait a
Allah
second.
protects
Wait,
him.
wait, wait. Let me try to find this. So you are saying Muhammad was just a human being, like
That's in Quran, brother. That's
what's
in
that?
Quran as well. Muhammad is a human being, but not like
Yes.
us.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, let me finish.
Because Allah
Muhammad
was
was just
protecting
a
him.
no. What was Muhammad was just a human being. We both agree on that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he was a historical person. I'm going to deal with that case later on. But he is portrayed as a human being. We are in
Brother, then
agreement.
what's the
One
issue
second,
in
Bilal,
that
Bilal,
hadith?
please
There's no
let me
issue in that hadith.
let me finish
Carry
this.
on.
Let me please finish this. And so we both are in agreement that
Yeah,
Muhammad is a human being. Now,
yeah.
what I am challenging you is that you began by saying Muhammad somehow, despite being a regular human being who can forget, somehow had memorized all of the Quran. That is my problem. My problem is uh, going through the Islamic sources, I find the information that no, that like a regular human being, he forgot. Not despite being a human being, he did some supernatural stuff. Like a regular human being, he forgot all sorts of stuff. We don't even know what he forgot here. All sorts of different stuff. He forgot. And that is why my case is he cannot be a golden source of information
Hmm.
for an oral transmission of the Quran. That's all I'm
Bro,
saying.
one
If he,
thing,
if he,
one
if
thing,
you and I
one.
agree that he's a regular human being who forgets, both of us are on the same page. No problem. We're not
No,
disagreeing.
no,
The
brother,
only the
brother.
only thing
No,
which is happening there is, despite understanding that he could not be a golden source, you, I am assuming, still would insist that he somehow was someone who had memorized everything. And I am saying, leave that. He's a regular
brother.
human being
First
who
thing,
forgot.
first thing, first thing. There's an ayah in Quran, and let me finish with that.
Okay.
There's an ayah
Go
in
on.
Quran that says that, "O Prophet," I'm telling you the mafhum because I don't know, I can't remember it properly.
No
"O
problem.
Prophet,
Tell me the
do
rough
not
idea
read it
if it's related to
fastly.
this.
Do not read it fastly. To memorize it and to do the explanation is on us. You just read it normally. We're gonna make you remember it." So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, I told you the hadith. In his last year, Jibrail used to came to him, and in the Ramadan, they both used to revise twice a day, and they used to confirm it what is
Bilal,
written
Bilal,
record.
Bilal.
So written record, brother, Prophet used to make everything what came to him. He used to make them written, proper written
Bilal,
record.
you know what the problem is? The problem is this. I am showing you details of hadiths. I'm reading them for you. Of course, you might have missed some of the details that you missed in the initial part of the live stream. But
And
please rewatch the live stream.
the Quran in
The
the
point, please rewatch the live stream. The point is, I am showing you details of how Muhammad did not remember. Muhammad thinks that others could not remember. And then the early Sahabas themselves, through various details that we went through, we understand none of them was put forward as someone who knew all of the Quran. I went through
brother.
all details. If
I
you haven't,
how
please,
many
can I
times
please, Bilal, one second.
ask,
Can I please advise you later on when you get a bit of leisure time, please go through this recording again. If you
brother,
haven't
you
subscribed to
bro,
Operation Stevens channel, please
brother,
subscribe
you
and
you
you will see
thinking
more material come through. But
you
please
thinking
go
one
through the
sided,
recording
you
again.
thinking one sided, you thinking one sided. That's your mistake is,
Yeah,
and
my
you
mistake, according to you, I
you
agree.
you
I'm
taking
thinking
one
one
hadith
sided.
and
The
you
one
saying
side
that
I'm thinking
prophet
about,
was forgotten. Then how can we believe it? If
no, no,
he's
no, no,
forgotten,
no, no,
then
no. That no,
we
I
can't
made a
believe
longer
him.
state. I made a longer point than that. I don't think you're doing justice to what I'm saying. I completely agree. I am being one-sided. I completely agree. I am siding with the evidence. That's where I'm
Brother,
siding.
I challenge
Wherever,
you one thing. Let's take my challenge as well now.
what challenge is
Bring
that? Is it
bring
related
a single ayah. Bring a single ayah which opposes to to the science this time, which is
to which
applied
what?
science. Bring a single ayah which you think is not right and which it against the applied science as well. And the second thing is, if you think that that Quran is not a God word, then make a single ayah. Make a single ayah. That's Quran challenge.
Bilal,
Make
Bilal.
a single
To be
surah, brother, if you can.
Bilal, but to be honest with you, you're very nice, and the proposal you're making is very tempting. I would
Brother, you
really
can't
like
do
to
it.
jump on that. I would really like to jump on that, to devour it, to explain to you how Quran is ridiculous. I'd really like to do that. You're really tempting me, but
Brother,
I need to
I
stay
never
on my point here.
brother,
The challenge,
if you're gonna
the
speak like
challenge
that,
I'd really
if
like to
you're gonna
focus
speak
on
like
right
that,
now.
then I don't have any words for you because you're disrespecting it. And I haven't said a single word which disrespect you, right? So you should
What did
not
I
be speaking
disrespect? Did I
like that.
disrespect you?
And in your last last sentence, whatever you said about the Quran, you keep your shit with you, and I don't want to repeat it. Because I'm not that kind of guy who
I do.
start. I'm
I do
not that
apologize.
kind of guy
I
who
don't.
start abusing
Bilal,
you.
Bilal, I
So
don't want people to
may
swear.
Allah give you hidayah.
People to, Bilal, I do. I really do not want people to swear in the
Yeah.
live channel. I'm really
I'm not
sorry
like that,
to.
brother. Don't worry. But don't use these
Sorry,
kind of
sorry,
words.
sorry,
Okay.
Bilal. I'm
All
really
right.
sorry. I don't want people to swear. The point is simple. I'd like to stay focused on the challenge I have raised: oral transmission of the Quran.
Hi,
And
brother. I gave you many example before. I
I
gave
do
you first
apologize.
example.
I really
I
do
gave you
apologize.
first example
I've
of
listened to you. I listened to you, but I
brother.
do not think you connected with the point that I was trying to make. Muhammad did not remember. Muhammad
Brother.
did not think others could
I
remember.
I gave
And the
you I
early
gave you four
Sahabas
things.
did not
I
remember
gave you
and
three
did not
things. I
present
gave you
themselves to
I
be
gave you
someone who
three things.
remembered.
I
This is
gave
this
you
is
three
this is
things.
this is the case I made. I did not
I
see any
and
rebuttal for the case there. I'm
no
really
no
sorry
no.
to say that.
I gave you three things about it. Three clues, and you overgoing them. First case is which you can prove it today as well. The one
I'll give
we
you a
that
last
we
chance here, Bilal.
yeah.
If you don't engage with my point here, as much as I respect you as a fellow human being, I'd really like you to maybe continue listening to maybe more people challenging. But last chance, I'd really like to see you engage with the particular challenge I've raised. Please go ahead.
Brother, I give you three examples for it. You can read it when you get free about it. You can search about it. One from the Caliph Usman. He preserved it. He did his preservation. And the second example is Prophet and Jibrail. Jibrail used to come to Prophet, and they used to read it twice every day. I think every day in Ramadan and in his
Who
last
saw that?
era.
Did you see
And
that?
third thing is, brother, let me just speak, brother.
Yeah,
Give me
sorry. I
one
apologize.
more
Please
minute,
finish.
one more. And
Yeah.
the third point is, watch that video on BBC. If you think it's not right, then bring evidence to me, brother. I am here.
Uh,
I can say that it's right. I've read it
Good.
properly. The
Fantastic,
page
Bilal.
is shown up. I read it.
Okay, Bilal, it was a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you.
What we can take forward from here is this BBC article, because that's talking about a different topic. Could I
Yeah.
ask you for a favor?
Yes, brother.
Please, if you're not subscribed to Operation Steven channel, please do subscribe, because sometime in the future, over the next couple of months or so, we are actually going to raise some very detailed commentary on the Birmingham manuscript. For start,
Brother, when you
start.
finish, I
Wait,
will
let
watch
me
it.
finish.
Don't worry.
One second, one second. We are going to do that. And when we do that, I am going to present to you all the flaws in the Birmingham manuscript. I'm going to present to you that. I'm
Brother,
looking forward
take
to
my email
doing that.
address. Take my
Please,
email
please.
address. Send me whenever you get ready.
No,
I will
absolutely. No,
read it.
please subscribe. Please subscribe. Please stay focused. There will be a live stream on the early Quranic manuscripts in general, if not in particular, about the Birmingham manuscript. Please stay
There's
subscribed, Bilal.
there's
That's my
one in
request to you.
Topkapi Stadium. There's one in Birmingham.
We'll deal with Top Copy a bit later.
And
But
no,
we
I'm here with Birmingham one because I've read it. I don't
absolutely.
know about the Topkapi one. I've
Yeah,
read the
no problem.
Birmingham one, and I'm sure it's right. So you
Absolutely.
can bring whatever you have, and you
Cool.
can send your thoughts to me in email as well if you like. I can give you the email address.
You can email me in the description of this video in Operation Steven page. You should find our email address.
Just
If
write
you
it
can
down,
email,
brother. Basically, I'm working full time, so that's why I can't speak with you all the time. I've just finished work,
no problem.
and
No, I'm not expecting you to.
whenever you have, I will, brother. I'm here. I give you a challenge. I accepted your challenge. I replied you. You can check those references which I gave to you.
You didn't
And
connect. I do
yeah,
apologize, but I really don't think you connected with the particular points I raised.
brother, I
But
gave you
please
pretty
email.
good
Let's
point.
stay in
And
touch, Bilal. Let's stay in touch, and please tune in for future episodes. We're going to go through a fair level of detail of all sorts of different things related to Quranic
brother,
preservation. But today, the topic is
brother,
on the oral transmission of the Quran.
one last word from me, brother. If
Please.
if you whenever in life you think that you feel difficulty, just go toward Allah. Go toward Allah and read a little bit with the proper translation. You feel that your soul is shaking, brother. If you reading it with the heart, then Allah
Bilal,
will surely give
Bilal,
you
believe it
quietness,
or not, believe
brother.
it or not, I have a family
This
where
brother,
my
this time,
I
brother.
have a family. One second. I have a family who have heard multiple people in our families have heard God audibly speak to us.
Pardon,
We have had God raise up a dead person in our family. I've had all sorts of signs and wonders in my life also. And so this little shivering here, shivering there can't cut the chase. I'm really sorry. God of the Bible is
brother.
a wonder
I
worker.
can just give you
God of the
advice.
Bible is a wonder worker. It's I'm really sorry. Islamic Allah does
Who
not
said,
have a
brother?
chance.
You
No,
know
no, no.
what
I'm not.
you
I'm not. I'm not. I'm
thinking.
not. I'm
You
not.
know
I'm
what
not.
you
I'm not going
thinking
to.
that
I'm not.
Jesus
I'm not
is
going
not
to
alive.
go
I
any
think
further on this,
Jesus is
Bilal.
alive.
I'm really sorry. I need to stay focused here. God of the Bible, Islamic Allah does not have a chance near God
Brother,
of the
God
Bible.
of the Bible and
Muhammad
the
does
God
not have
of
a
the Quran, they
chance
both same.
near Jesus Christ.
Brother,
Raises up dead people back alive.
brother,
Now,
brother,
having said that,
brother,
Bilal, it was a pleasure
brother,
speaking to you.
one second. Bring a single verse, unambiguous statement from the Bible which says, where Jesus said that I am the God, worship me. Bring
Stay
a single
tuned.
verse,
Stay
bring a
tuned.
single unambiguous statement from the
Stay
Bible.
tuned. Bilal, stay tuned.
I will be
Different
waiting
topics,
for you.
different live
Not
stream.
not
Stay
ambiguous
tuned.
statement, brother. If you
Bilal,
ask
Bilal.
me, bring a single ambiguous statement from the Quran that wherever God said that God is
Bilal,
one, do not
Bilal,
worship anyone
I
else.
do, I
I
do,
can ask
Bilal.
you, read any verse of the Quran. It says that God is one, do not worship anyone else. So bring a single ambiguous statement which says that Jesus where said that Jesus is God. Jesus, I am the God and worship me. Bring a single unambiguous statement, brother.
Bilal,
That's a
Bilal,
challenge to you.
thank
You
you.
gave me challenge, now I
Thank
give
you
you
very
challenge
much.
as well.
Bilal, thank you very much. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
Brother, when you
I do
don't give
not think,
an
I do
answer,
not think,
you say that.
Bilal, thank you very much. It was a
You're
pleasure
welcome,
speaking to
brother.
you.
You're
I
always
do not think
welcome.
you're staying with the point at hand. You're talking about counting mathematical issues. The Bible agrees. Even the devil knows that there is only one God. The question isn't a counting issue. The Bible has a solid theology. I really thank you for your contribution today. God's blessings to you. Please subscribe.
God bless you
Join in
too,
future
brother. God,
episodes.
may God
Thank
give
you.
you
Thank you.
guidance.
Thank you. Um, thank you, Bilal. There, it was very good catching up with you. I do apologize. I have to cut you short because I really want to stay focused on the topic here. Not sure if anyone else wants to join. I saw Chris, a Christian. Is that Chris from Speaker's Corner? I saw a Christian online a bit earlier. If you did want to come online and make a particular point, please do feel free to. But the invitation is still open. Any other Muslim who has a very specific challenge in regards to the topic at hand, which is there a case to suggest there was an oral transmission of the Quran? And the way you can address that is by pointing out to one or more people in early Islam who had known the Quran by heart and were used as a golden source for the Quran. in the early Islamic period. That is the challenge today, not anything else. This is the challenge today. Please, if there is any Muslim who would like to take that challenge up, please do come along. If there is anyone who watches this live stream and who knows some of the Dawa gang members from Speaker's Corner or elsewhere in the globe, please do take this challenge to them and try and see if they will address the specific points I raised today. And also, I dare each one of them to come online. Through God's grace, we would be doing these live streams every Friday, God strengthening. There might be on occasions a bit of plus or minus 2 days or whatnot, hopefully once every week. But the regular schedule is Friday evenings, London time, 7:30 onward, where I'll present a particular challenge. I'll present a case for essentially claiming what I will be claiming about that topic at hand, and then asking for people to challenge me on my conclusions. Please ask members of the Dawa gang, from Speaker's Corner and elsewhere, to join. Be bold. Ask them to be bold. Ask them not to run around and hide behind things that they can't hide. Of course, we have clear evidence for the fact that they've been hiding, running away and hiding. Challenge them. Tell them, if you know your stuff, if you're worth your salt, if you know Islam, and if you earnestly believe in Islam, go face Arul in Islam Under Scrutiny with Arul Velusamy. Fridays, unless explicitly stated otherwise, Fridays, 7:30 London time in the evening. Ask them to join and face my challenge. Is there any other Muslim who wants to challenge me on the particular argumentation I have raised today? While I wait for maybe one more person, let me go through. Oops, sorry, that's not what I want to share. Let me go through some of the other comments we have. Alhamdulillah, like I said God can't be human, bro. Unrelated to the topic I was trying to discuss. Javi Besek replied, Operation Stephen, don't have to watch Arul versus the Dawa team a lot more. You'll know to what Arul is making fun of himself. We're talking about Arul, no, not sure what he's up to. But Alhamdulillah, had an earlier comment. As according to you, if there is no proof of Muhammad in the Bible, then, well, of course, this is a previous comment. I think I went through a number of older comments to make a point, and they haven't got back to me. There was even a point someone raised about the fact that there are hadiths in Sahih al-Bukhari which contradict themselves. So the point is, Islam is crumbling, battered, beaten up, bruised on life support right now. The only thing which is sustaining Islam in life support right now is ignorance of people. Ignorance. Bilal, I earnestly request you to go through the details I had shared in my presentation before you joined. When you go through them in detail, you will understand there was no one who had a full knowledge of the Quran in early Islam. Why do people across the world still think Quran was transmitted orally? Ignorance. Turning a blind eye to evidence in front of us. And in this case, evidence from Islamic sources themselves. Your Islamic sources tell us that oral transmission of the Quran did not happen. This is very important. And the reason it is important is this. Today, we find various manuscripts of the Quran across the in various places, various manuscripts. Bilal, of course, mentioned about a couple of them. The Birmingham manuscript from the Mingana collection. There is the Topkapi manuscript he also alluded to. There is Samarkand manuscript, all sorts of different manuscripts we have today. And what we find is major manuscripts disagree with each other, and going, all the thousands of, manuscriptal fragments and so on, disagree. So the point is, no one who is sensible would ever claim that the text of the Quran has been preserved miraculously. No one sensible would claim that. The only magic wand they try to use, despite the evidence going against them, is clinging on to the hope that somehow, if they talk about an oral transmission and claim that in this oral transmission things were preserved, people will give in and give up and go with their fantasy, Harry Potter. But the frank reality, my friends, today we've gone through details to suggest that the idea of oral transmission is not even as popular as Harry Potter, but it certainly is fiction. Anyone else who wants to come on board to challenge? Perhaps we'll wait for a couple of more minutes before we wind down. Any other specific challenge that anyone wants to bring on the oral transmission of the Quran? People on Soko, apologies, I haven't been watching comments there because on StreamYard I can only see the comments from the Operation Stephen page. People from Revelation 22:13, I haven't been watching your comments, so not sure if any valid relevant comment was made there. I do sincerely apologize for not taking them into consideration. If any one of you is a Muslim and would like to challenge, please come on board on StreamYard. But no swearing in our room here. You're most welcome to join and engage on an intellectual level. And through God's grace, we might agree on something. But please, no swearing. All right. Perhaps we should count down right now. Let's see. All right. I don't see anyone join here. So I'm going to sort of wind down here. Bilal, great catching up with you. Thanks for joining. Please subscribe. For anyone else who is new to Operation Stephen page, YouTube channel, please do subscribe, and let's stay connected. And hopefully you will, if you are a Muslim, you will benefit from learning about the flaws that none of your teachers would ever tell you. And if you're a Christian, hopefully, again, this would be an educational thing for you. With that having said, let's wrap up. Thank you, everyone. God's richest blessings to you.